All right, sweet. We good, Miles? We good?
We're good.
All right, thanks, Miles. All right, Barry Katz, welcome to the podcast. So I'm going to jump in just right away, okay? I'm going to tease you just a little bit this morning. Is that okay?
I can't wait.
Okay. So I've been watching your podcast, Industry Standard, probably for 4 years before I ever met you, right? So I've been watching it for probably 5, 6, 7 years at this point. And my favorite part of your podcast is when you give the guests their flowers at the beginning. You always have the best, most inspirational intros, right? So me and Miles were talking, and we thought it would be fun since you're here. We want to give you a classic industry standard intro. Is that all right?
Okay,
Can I do my best?
I better put the microphone down.
All right. Yeah. Sit down for a second. I'll take it from here. All right. You ready? All right. So, guys, I want to tell you a little bit about Barry today, okay? So, Barry Katz, a visionary in the world of comedy, has left an inedible mark on the entertainment industry. Universally recognized for catapulting the careers of iconic artists like Dane Cook, Burt Kreischer, Whitney Cummings, Louie Anderson, Ken Jeong, and Hassan Minhaj, he is the mastermind behind the rise of comedy legends such as Dane Cook, Dave Chappelle, and Bill Burr. Barry's journey began by providing quality stage time in New York City and Boston, showcasing future stars like Ed Helms, Sarah Silverman, and Anthony Clark. Throughout his illustrious career, he managed to sell an incredible 39 out of 40 stand-up comedy specials and brokered an unprecedented 100 TV development deals. He created 3 television shows, executive produced over 50 specials, and played a pivotal role in launching the careers of numerous comedy greats. His impact extends beyond stand-up, as Barry ventured into film production, helping sell cult classics like Half-Baked to Universal Studios. He went on to produce hit films such as Employee of the Month, Good Luck Chuck, and My Best Friend's Girl. Barry's innovative spirit was showcased when he pioneered the use of social media to propel Dane Cook's career, achieving groundbreaking success by selling out shows at both Boston Garden and Madison Square Garden in record time. A trailblazer in the recording world, Barry produced Grammy-nominated gold, platinum, and double platinum albums. His unique approach made him the only manager and producer to debut a comedy album in the Billboard Top 5 national chart twice. Beyond individual success, Barry co-founded Comedy Dynamics, a powerhouse in independent comedy production and distribution. His involvement in the original sale of Comedy Central Roast to the network solidified the franchise as one of the longest-running and most profitable in TV history. Barry Katz's story is one of resilience, innovation, and an unyielding commitment to shaping the landscape of comedy. From delivering talent to small clubs to orchestrating massive sellout shows and blockbuster films, Barry's journey is a testament to the transformative power of passion, hard work, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. I've known Barry Katz now for about 3 years. We met when I was working for Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, and over the last 3 years, Barry has become a business partner, a mentor, and more importantly, a dear friend and somebody I can always rely on to give me the cold, hard truth. Barry, welcome to the show. How'd I do?
Thank you for that unrehearsed speech. It's so good to be here and hang out here in the Phoenix area.
Yeah.
And, I realize I'm not as old as I thought I was because I have acne. So this is very important. So no, there's not been any domestic abuse in my life.
Okay.
It's just, it's good.
Oh, I wish I had a little bit of makeup to help you cover it up.
Don't
but
worry,
no
man.
luck today.
You look fantastic.
Thank you.
Those henna tattoos look so great.
Those henna tattoos? Now those ones are all real.
Oh, they're all real.
I suffered through those ones.
I thought you put those on just for me.
You know, we've met probably hundreds of times and always through Zoom. Did you know I was tattooed like that?
No, I didn't know. You know, as a Jewish person, I think I'm not allowed to have those. But I am thinking of going overseas to Tokyo and getting a tattoo with my 2 boys. In like that's one of us will have holy, one of us will have shit, and one of us will have moments.
You can stand next to each other and get the pick off, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. So how's your time in Phoenix been?
It's good. I just got back from the Dane Cook show last night. He got me some tickets and some backstage passes, and I took my sister and
Nice.
had a great time. And
Was
he
it sold out?
packed the place. Yeah,
Yeah.
sold out. So it's
Yeah.
good. He did a great job, and he's really ripped. And he told me I look good, and I told him to stop day drinking.
Do you think he's gonna take your advice on that one?
I don't think so.
No.
No, he doesn't drink.
Okay. Very good, man. So, wanted to start off just a little bit by talking about like how we knew each other, because like it's been a long road for you to be here today. You know, this is the first time we've ever met, but like I said, we've probably done, I don't know, like 100 Zoom calls, and you know, we've talked on the phone for hours and hours and hours. You know.
I know. I feel so excited to see you, knowing that I've made you tens of hundreds of dollars.
It's all right. We're getting there. We're growing. You know, it seems to be working. You know, it's like a couple bucks more every time I get paid. So you know, that's all right. Gets me a cheeseburger or something. You know.
And another tattoo.
And another. Yeah, I usually. You know, I'm pretty consistent.
No, it's I loved how persistent you were when you kept reaching out to me, and I think that's, for your audience, is one of the greatest things in the world, because so many times you hear people saying, "Oh, I didn't get that job," or I don't know what happened. You know, I interviewed and you know, I never heard from them. Well, did you follow up?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And it's all about the follow up and the persistence and back and forth. And you guys were so persistent. And you know, your parents always tell you about that story about the rock and, you know, hitting it with the hammer over and over again and nothing happens, and then on the 100th hit it smashes into a million pieces. Well, it's not that one time. It's all that time you hammered away. And that's why I look the way I do, because you hammered away at me so much. It was awful. You and Miles, and you guys can't see Miles because you know, he's in the background doing all the work that allows Jake to.
They see him on my Instagram though. They know Miles.
To buy the gold chains.
I like gold, as you can tell. You know, it's kind of my thing. Yeah. So I don't know if you like know the whole story of how I even found you, right?
No, I don't.
So I know you know it's like because like when I used to work for Tony Robbins and I had that job, but the story itself is actually really funny to me. So I think one of the reasons I was so like relentless in pursuing getting to know you is because I'm a giant comedy fan, like for my whole life. Like I love stand-up, like truly I love it. And I used to live in Michigan in a town of 1,000 people. And in 2015, my kid was like 1 year old at the time. I had a small house in a small town. And I mean, I used to cut grass in my yard while listening to comedy podcasts. You know, one of them that sticks out is Legion of Skanks. Big J. Okerson would always mention you, right? Many times. So over the time,
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's where I first heard of you, by like Big J, or even when like Bert Kreischer would come on Legion of Skanks, he would mention you once in a while. And of course, everyone loves to do the classic Barry imitation. You know what I mean? So
it's pretty sad how many people do this imitation. It's like
I wish there was an AI that could scrape the internet and pull every single time somebody's done it, like on the internet, and just give me one highlight reel.
What's crazy is, and don't lose your place, is that people will do the impression on shows. They'll do them on live shows, and like no one knows who the fuck I am, but they do the impression and they get laughs.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate inside joke, right?
Yeah. So you used to hear those?
Yeah, so I'm cutting grass in Michigan in a small town. You know, I was working construction at the time, and, you know, they're mentioning Barry Katz. So over time... You
still look like you're doing construction, by the way.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'm in my prime right now.
All right, keep going.
So I heard your name over and over just on comedy podcasts, right? And, you know, life moves on, and eventually I got a job and moved to Phoenix and, you know, met people, and I got my job working for Tony Robbins. And while I was working there was a girl that worked in customer service. She would just take complaints all day, right? And she was a comedy fan too, and, you know, get to talking in the break room. We realized, you know, we had similar tastes. We listened to the same podcast, so we would talk about comedy like literally every time we'd be in passing. And my job working for Tony Robbins was, I was an affiliate manager, so my job was to build relationships with celebrities and influential people, right? Her job was, when somebody that met some of those standards would come through the system, her job was to alert me and say, hey, this famous person just engaged with Tony's thing, and then I would have to go reach out to them and try to get them to work together. And I remember the day I was sitting at my desk, and she comes up to me and she goes, Jake, do you know who Barry Katz is? And I remember laughing, and I'm like, we talk about comedy every day. Like, of course I knew who Barry Katz is. I said it exactly like that. And she goes, he just blah, 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 signed up for this thing, and we have his contact info. And you know, I was like, oh, can you please send that to me right now? And she sent it to me, and within 5 minutes of getting that forwarded email, I was on the phone with you, calling you. And originally, I was just trying to pitch and do my job. And I think that first time we talked, we probably talked for, I feel like we talked for like 2.5 hours that day. I remember pacing the mastermind room in Tony's office, just talking to you for way longer than I expected to. I expected to get about 90 seconds, and I got 90 minutes.
Well, you know, you were a guy who really wanted to do great things, and I love spending time with people who have a vision, and it's weird, you know, I got the program so I could have everybody in my office like experience you know, what Tony was all about.
Yeah. Even
though like I know it sounds odd, I've never listened to Personal Power. I don't know. I mean, I probably didn't listen to any of that program, but I had them transcribe it, I had them do it, I had them read it, I had them look at it all. Yet myself, I never really looked at anything except I think I looked at a few videos and I said, I can't believe this guy who's at the top of his game, you know, has a set like that. Like if you look at the set that you have here, it's like
it's not too bad,
100 times better than his set. Yet, you know, the guy has probably 17 islands in Belize.
Yeah.
So
he literally does. Yeah.
We'd gladly trade him.
Yeah, we'd trade out for that for sure. Yeah. I'll take an island or two.
But I was really blown away by what a great pitch man you were, and what a great you know, it's your audience. I don't know what your audience is or who they are, but who's ever listening, you know, it's all about the sale. Everything is about the sale, and people think, what are you talking about? It's like if you go out on a date, you're trying to sell yourself to that person, so the dress falls to the floor or the pants fall to the floor. If you're at a accountant's office and you're trying to get new business, you're trying to show them you do great work, and so they'll refer you to somebody. If you're Coca-Cola and you're in the stadium here and Pepsi's in the other stadium, you're going over to try to sell them to get that account. This building here, chances are it's not 100% full, and they're trying to get more people in. And if you're a comedian on stage, or a musician, or a magician, or a jazz pianist, you're trying to show people how great you are, so they'll talk about you, and they'll help you gain more audience and more money. It's crazy, but that's all it is. And so, yes, you were in a sales job, but that's a skill set that's really important. Look at my son, we talked about sell sneakers, high-end Jordans like the ones you're wearing. And it's all about doing great work and getting 5-star reviews, so people, and so his Instagram goes from like 300 to over 1,000, and he goes from $100 to 20,000. Or my son, who's a musical producer, it's about doing great work and getting in the rooms, and then somebody talks about you, and then you get in this one studio, and then there's a great musician in there that's tied to Drake or something like that, and they hear something you do, and they're like, hey, can I use that beat there? And then before you know it, you're on an album that has over 2 million, 3 million streams. And then people talk about you, and then they hire you to do other stuff. And so everybody who's watching, that's how it works. And obviously, it's, in my opinion, it's best to be the person, not work for the person. But in the beginning, it doesn't hurt to learn the ropes by working for the person.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of the stuff that I do now, like, I wouldn't even know how to do if I didn't have every job that I've ever felt like I failed at, you know? Like, I've had so many jobs in my life, and I failed, and I failed, and I failed, and, like, they weren't the thing that, like, I thought they would be, but I've taken something away from all of them, and, you know, you just get to the point where you're like, okay, well, now I have this thing that I'm working on, and it's every single thing I've ever done is relevant to that one thing, you know? And that's why I always tell people, like, you have to do something you're excited about, right? Like, the reason I was so consistent is because I truly was passionate. Like, you know, I love comedy. I love coaching businesses. Everything that we ever talked about, like, was all the stuff that I talk about with my friends anyway, so it was easy to talk about it with you.
And for all of the people watching and listening, you failure is, I know it seems like it's so horrible to fail. Everybody's so worried about failing or the embarrassment of failing. It's like, I mean, if you don't fail, you're a fucking loser.
Right.
I mean, if you don't fail, you are never going to get where you want to go.
Yeah.
You have to fail.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one I know who's won every time. Yeah, there's people I know who win every time, and they're like, they might be driving Uber. Hey, I won every time. The fare came in, my money went in the account, it came, I drove, and whatever.
Yeah.
But those are no-risk businesses.
Mm-hmm.
No risk. But as they say, no risk, no reward.
Exactly.
And in comedy, which I am a savant about, I get frustrated when I see a lot of comedy. Not frustrated like, oh, I'm disappointed in comedy and whatever. But for those of you who watch comedy it's like a puzzle that's being presented to your audience. And the puzzle is such that you want to make it so they can't figure out the puzzle until you solve it on stage.
Yeah.
And the harder the puzzle is to solve, the more laughs you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger the surprise. And it doesn't matter if it's a long, long story that's like a minute or too long. Or look, Rodney Dangerfield would show you the puzzle in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
5 seconds, he would just tell you a story that had all the elements. It was just incredible, I went to the bartender. I said, surprise me. He pulled out a picture of my wife. So right away, we know that he drinks during the day. He has a relationship with his bartender. He's away from his wife at the bar.
Yep.
And the bartender's fucking his wife. In 5 seconds, we know, what's happening.
Yep.
Oh, my wife is a bad cook. I mean, I don't think meatloaf should glow in the dark. So we know that she's a bad cook.
Yeah.
He hates the food.
Right.
And then he makes a joke about it that, I was an ugly kid. My parents' bath toys were a radio and a fan. It's like, whatever, or my parents hated me or whatever it was.
Yeah.
To like Sam Morrill, who does this long, wonderful, detailed bit about the Holocaust, which is, you when he starts talking about it, you think, oh my God, where's he going with this?
Right.
And then he talks about, there were 100,000 people in the camps that weren't Jews. Can you imagine what it was like for those people? And then I'm paraphrasing, but he'll do all these lines like they'll walk up to a guard and say, excuse me, I think there's been some kind of a mistake here. So it's the unexpected sale, the sale of the material. And so that's what I love about comedy. And if you study comedy, you can look as far back as I was watching a clip of Jackie Mason, of all people. For those of you who don't know, you talk about perseverance. Jackie Mason was one of the first people ever to get canceled.
Okay.
So long ago, everybody, there was one show on television where you had an opportunity to shine and sell to the world that you were great. Mm-hmm. It was the Ed Sullivan Show. It was on Sunday nights. It was a live show. That's where the Beatles launched. Mm-hmm. They won on that show. They were doing Shea Stadium.
Yeah, crazy.
So, and comedians would go on too. And so he was the first one to really get canceled after Lenny Bruce. It was a live show. So, again, I don't know all the circumstances, but Ed Sullivan was giving him a sign, hey, you got 2 minutes to wrap it up. Mm-hmm. And then when Jackie got off, he said, I got 2 fingers for you, or I got a finger for you, or whatever.
The famous middle finger incident. Yeah.
And he was blackballed from the show, and he had to go to court. He won a decision to get back on the show.
Really?
And he went back on for 7 episodes. Then he got canceled again, and he made it huge in his 60s.
Yeah.
in a show called The World According to Me when he had nothing.
Yep.
And on Broadway, and he became huge and made money, and he won a Tony Award, and he won an Emmy Award, and I think he won a Grammy Award too. But you could just watch his first set on television, one of his first sets from like 62 years ago. And it's this incredible weaving story about going to the therapist and how the therapist says, you know, you hate your father. I don't hate my father. Oh, you hate your sister. I don't hate my sister. Well, that's your problem. You argue too much. You know, it's like, and it's just this whole thing that just keeps going and going and going. And he's presenting the story to where you have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
And when you have no idea what's happening in comedy, it's tied to the sale of you showing the audience what you're doing and how you're doing it. It's unbelievable, Jake. It's like you look at how it is. I always say that it's like the greatest horror movies in the world. Yes, some of them do really well when they show the knife on the kitchen table 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
There's many of those movies that do really, really well. And I equate those to the comedian who's a phenomenal entertainer that packs places all over the place, but no one is going to mistake for Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock.
Yeah.
But they're packing the place, and you're like, wow, it just seems like they're telling funny stories. Like, why are they? Because, you know, they can show the knife on the table and still be successful. But the greatest comedians of all time never show the knife on the table, and then it's like the movie Saw. At the end of the movie, you're like, what the fuck? Just that was there the whole time? I can't fucking believe. And you don't tell your friends about the jokes, just like you don't tell your friends about the ending of Saw. You say, you got to see this. And you pass it around, and that's what the sale is, and that's what comedy is, and that's what makes people great. And people will shit on comedians all the time when they become big or they seem to rise really quickly. It's like, I look at Matt Rife, who opened for Dane Cook for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's like,
He's with Chappelle now, isn't he?
yeah. Well, he did a show with him. So did Dane, by the way, in Boston Garden as a surprise.
Oh, nice.
Chappelle brought him on. It was amazing. But the point is that people look at what somebody does, and if it's successful, they're the first to shit on it and giggle and laugh. Oh, well, he's just doing crowd work. It's like, you don't know what this person has gone through to get to where they're getting there.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own path. And Matt was doing a lot of material before he was known for the crowd work. But it wasn't hitting the way he wanted it to hit.
Yeah.
So he discovered another algorithm. It's not like just like when you see a movie, a comedy movie, a romantic comedy, it's like, how many times you see the movie where the girl comes in at the end of the first act and it slows down and you see the guy's eyes and the girl's eyes and they're meeting, and you know that at the end of the movie you're going to see the wedding scene and it's going to go up, the camera's going to go up the sky and say the end.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the same in comedy. Like, there's formulas. Like, Don Rickles was doing crowd work in the 50s, Buddy Hackett. That doesn't mean it's bad, but it's very rare for somebody to do crowd work and sustain for their whole career. Rickles did it because he did all the television shows, and he was improvisationally just shit on all the hosts, and they loved it. Hackett used to tell old jokes. And so in those days, you could make a lot of money. Hackett made $175,000 a week in Vegas in 1953.
Wow.
So, but now, as a comedian, if you sell yourself a certain way, you have to be cognizant of the fact, if you are a crowd work person, great, make your money, do your thing, be popular, but know that you're not going to be remembered for what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm an accountant. Whatever. You're going to be known for the crack baby routine. You're going to be known for the Jim Jeffries gun control routine.
Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be your legacies. So as Matt Rife does what he does, I'm sure in the back of his mind is like, I want to create my legacy through the material that I create, and I want to get that out there, and hopefully I can use this platform to get it out there and then transition so people know me for the words that come out of my mind and go into my mouth, which again is the sale, which goes back to what you were doing and how you reached me. Mm-hmm. And now you're doing comedy.
Yeah, and I have a version of that in my own way because Miles and I have realized that me just being very open about like my dating life and some of the experiences that come with it. Sometimes we say some terrible things on the internet, but then they get 1 million views, and then that lets me to keep doing the podcast and get bigger and bigger guests, and you have a lot more fun, but it's like, I don't necessarily want to be known as the guy who is sharing all of my dirty secrets, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's working right now to get me the attention I need to kind of get where I'm trying to go, but it's like, okay, well, long term, is that really what I want to be forever? So that's actually something I'm very conflicted with right now also.
And you have to be conflicted with it because whatever you put out there is out there forever.
Yeah.
It's like...
I've lost some dates out over it, for
yeah,
sure.
It's like, do you want to be the New York Times or do you want to be the Post? Do you want to be when the bomb drops in Gaza, hundreds of people killed, or do you want to be the Post? Kaboom.
Yeah.
Or do you want to be the newspaper that says Michael Jackson sold the bones to the Elephant Man for $3 million, or bought the bones of the Elephant Man for $3 million? Mm-hmm. Or do you want to be the Post? Jacko is wacko. What you're doing is sensationalism through a new form of media.
Yeah.
And it stays with you. And as I always like to say, respect outlasts cash.
Yeah.
What you're doing sometimes is the car accident, which I was just in. And
I'm a 10.
And that's the thing. It's like there's an accident, you pull over, you have to look at it. And what happens after you look at it? You drive by and you fucking forget about it.
Yeah.
But what happens when you see something that's so memorable that it stays in your mind and in your soul, and you keep thinking about it? There's so many things I think about, like in comedy. Like, I think of the Bob Newhart driving instructor routine. I think of, Chris Rock's black people and N-words.
Yeah, classics.
I think of Jim Jeffries' gun control bit. I think of these things that blow me away and stay with me for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I think of a line that some guy, Bob Nickman, said, when I first saw him go on stage in 1985, he walked on stage and he said, I don't have any money right now. I'm saving up money. No, I don't have a girlfriend right now. I'm saving up money so I can get a really good one. I'll never forget that line. Or he said, you ever walk into somebody's house and you break a vase and all of a sudden it becomes a vase. These are the things I remember. Yeah. And they stay with me. I'm not gonna, it's not going to stay with me that you had sex with a girl and then there's another girl in the waiting room ready to come up or something having to do with whatever, the threesome with, what did you say? Threesome
with the dog?
Yeah. So now, unbelievably, I want to share something with you.
Okay.
This is weird. I've never talked about this before.
Okay.
So I used to represent Bobcat Goldthwait, who, first of all, was my roommate when he first started.
Really?
In Boston? Yeah, he came down from Skaneateles, New York.
Wow.
He was brilliant. I'll never forget, like, I was in an open mic night when I first met him, and I was ready to go on stage, and I was doing really well. And I'm about to go on stage, and there's a tap on my shoulder, and I look back. Don't see anybody, and I'm focusing on going on. Tap again. I look over, I look down. There's like a 5'5", 5'7". I don't know how tall he was. He was wearing a hunter's hat. You know, the crisscross red and black.
Yeah.
Hunter's jacket.
Yep.
Hunter's pants.
Classic flannel.
And Elmer Fudd boots.
Yeah.
And he's like, hi, my name is Bob. I just wanted to wish you, my name's Bobcat. I just wanted to wish you good luck. I'm going on after you. And I'm thinking, this poor motherfucker. I went on and I fucking killed. It was one of my best shows I ever did. And you know, in your mind, you're like, oh, God. Some comedians are like, take that, motherfucker. I was like, God, I feel so bad. And I went to the bar. I said, good luck. I sat at the bar. And he just went on stage. And it was like he grabbed, I'll never forget, he grabbed us like that. And he said, I lost my job. I mean, I didn't really lose my job. It's just when I go there, there's this new guy doing it. Fucking wave of applause. I'm like, he's already crushed me with the first line.
Oh no.
And then it goes and he's screaming and he's scared and whatever. And then his last line, I'll never forget the callback. I lost my girlfriend. I didn't really lose my girlfriend. Just when I go there, there's this new guy doing it. I'm looking for roommates. Thank you. Good night. Standing ovation. Like for a white guy in a comedy club. I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a fucking loser. This guy is killed. And he sits down next to me and I say, great job. And I said, you're really looking for roommates? He said, yeah, I came down from Skinny Outlet. I don't know where I'm staying.
Yeah.
And I was an RA at Miles Standish Hall at Boston University, and there was this broom closet that I had. And I snuck him in, and I got a bed from somewhere, put it in the broom closet, and he stayed there for months.
Really?
And he got a job passing out flyers for the Comedy Connection.
Yeah.
And for those 6 months, he said, I got this job, I'm getting money, whatever. And then at the end of the school year, when I went to clean out the closet, I open up the closet and like thousands of passes just fall all over me, like nothing, never passed out anything.
Yeah.
And then I got an apartment and we lived together, and then I gave him my first show at Play It Again Sam's, my first comedy club on Wednesday nights, and he had that show. But to make a long story longer, that ties into your thing. So when I'm representing him later, he's married or engaged to Nikki Cox, who then, believe it or not, married another client of mine, Jay Moore.
Okay.
So it was a crazy time. So Bob wrote this really edgy script. It was an incredibly edgy, powerful script that he made into a movie about a girl, a teenage girl or a girl in her 20s was home alone, her dog. She was lonely, and she had some form of sex with the dog. I don't know if she blew the dog or if she gave the dog a hand job or if she whatever. Just this moment that we all know has happened in the world at some point in time.
Right.
It's happened. But the girl was alone in her place, and it shows that something happened. And then she has a regular life that the viewer sees. So the viewer in the movie sees this incredible girl. She's a wonderful girl. She's sweet. She's kind. Everybody loves her. She's got a great job. And she eventually meets a guy, great guy, has a great relationship. And then she decides that she loves this guy and she wants to tell him that what she did long ago in her lifetime, that she has kept inside her whole life. And then she tells him, and he can't handle it. He starts telling everybody, and then the whole world now knows that this girl, this wonderful, sweet girl who made one, I know, horrible, albeit crazy, horrible mistake in her life that nobody knew about until she said something. And true to form about what you're saying that you're doing in your social media,
Yeah.
it came back, and this woman whose life was the perfect life, they thought she was the perfect girl, unraveled, and she lost everything. She lost her man, she lost her family, she lost her church, she lost everything. And it was that kind of movie with that trajectory until she finally starts. And it was an incredible script, but it was so edgy.
Yeah.
And I said to him, he said, I want to have Nikki play this role. And I said, Bob, I can't support that.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you don't represent Nikki. And I didn't at that point, but I did eventually.
Yeah.
I said, I know, but she's so sweet. I can't support that, Bob. I can't sell that script. I know I can sell the script. I don't want to sell the script.
Yeah.
And I feel bad because I think you're a genius, and I love you, and I love the script, and I think it's amazing. I just don't think I'm ready to support and do that. And shortly after that, he stopped wanting me to represent him.
Sure.
Because I didn't support his vision.
Yeah.
And he eventually got that movie made, which I'm proud of him that he did. And but sometimes
Did she play that part?
No.
No.
But sometimes in this crazy world of representation or comedy, there's things that are being done, and I don't think it can help you. Yeah. As great as certain things are, I don't think they can help you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are an artist, you have to figure out what those things are. If you are on social media, whatever, you got to figure out what's going to be the long game for you and what's going to be the short game.
Yeah.
Like you made a joke, I made a joke to you. You said you had a guy on your podcast that had tattoos all over his face. He had millions of views. And I thought to myself, I think I wrote to you before I did the podcast. I said, I don't have time to get the tattoos over my face.
Yeah.
This will be probably your lowest rated podcast of all time. But the point is, for everybody listening, it's like you have to pretend that you're almost in a bathroom. You know how people say don't talk in a bathroom?
Yeah.
Because you never know who's going to be underneath the stall. You're like, hey, the boss sucks. I hate that fucking person. And you hear the flush, and then the guy comes out of the...
out, yeah.
or whatever. It's like, or you have to pretend you're meeting the president or the queen.
Yeah.
And granted, you might say, well, then how come Bert Kreischer is filming his asshole getting tanned by the sun?
Right.
Because that's the lane that Bert chose.
Mm-hmm.
And he's riding that lane, which was the #1 party animal in the country way back when he was a kid. He's riding that lane, and that's who he is. And so he's staying true to who he is, and that's what people love about him.
Yep.
And if your truth is who you are and what that is and what you want the world to see that, then ride that lane for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And don't worry about how it's going to hurt you or not hurt you, because if that's what you want people to know you as, then ride the lane, and there's going to be your fans who are going to love you, who are those kind of
There's
people.
Be a bunch of people who hate me too, which I'm okay with that. I actually like that part a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
I always tell anybody who listen, like, if you are an artist and this whole camera angle, if you were pretending that this was all black, and that black represented the world, and there was one little pinhead of white speck on the black that represented you as an artist, if you can reach that speck, you're going to be a multi-millionaire. You don't have to be loved by the whole world. You only have to be loved by 0.000000001 of the world.
Yeah.
To be a multi-millionaire.
Okay.
Everybody else can hate you.
Yeah. And first of all, Miles, do you think I'm fairly true to what I be talking about on the internet to my real life?
100%.
100%. Yeah. So that's why it doesn't really bother me, because like I know that like even though some people think what I talk about's a little grimy sometimes, it's the life I'm living. It's what I'm experiencing out here in downtown Phoenix and things like that. And I also know that, on Instagram, I'll get millions and millions of views. So I have the data behind that as well. So I could go into my Instagram and it tells me like, hey, you got 2 million views this month, 89% of it are men ages 18 to 33. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure those dudes want to hear me talk about what I'm talking about. So when you talk about the big black void and that little bit of speck, those 18 to 33-year-old dudes that are like me and Miles that hear my shit and they're like, oh, listen to Jake talk, that sounds awesome. You know what I mean? I guess I am reaching those people.
And this is what's hard for you. This is the most challenging thing for you.
Yeah.
It's the most challenging thing for anybody listening. It's like you're reaching those 18 to 33-year-old dudes.
Yeah.
But there's one little dude that's going to be reading stuff on the internet soon, who's the love of your life, and who is your whole world.
Yeah.
And you have to make the decision, what's the most important thing for you?
Yeah.
Do I create something that my boy is going to be proud of, or do I create something that my boy is going to look at and be like, holy shit, this is my dad?
Yeah. A few weeks ago, I caught him on his phone watching my videos. Luckily, he was watching the ones where I was giving business advice. They were older ones. He found them on YouTube. He hasn't found the new ones. However, he did tell me his mom let him have his first Instagram recently. Just kid stuff, and he did inform me that his mom made him block me on Instagram because dad be talking about too bad of stuff on there. So at first he was like, yeah, I got you blocked. I was like, why? He's like, mom made me. I was like, why would she make you block me? He's like, she said you talk about bad stuff. And I'm like, yeah, she's right. She's right. So I had to give my ex-wife my flowers on that one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She wasn't wrong. So, all right. So we're about a little more than halfway through our time. I definitely have a couple specific things I want to ask.
I told you, you ask one question, it takes me 45 minutes to answer it. I'm sorry.
We weren't unprepared for that, Barry. We've got to know you well enough this last year where we were prepared to let you talk for about 40 minutes and then jump in. So we do have a couple of things we want to chat about. So one of the things is when you interviewed Troy Bond, you mentioned your first ever psychedelic experience that you had. And this is something Miles and I have discussed. And you said that you experienced nothing and you felt nothing. Are you an alien or secretly a sage? And have you tried it again since? Because the only one I've ever heard of doing psychedelics and not having any experience was Ram Dass's guru Maharaji. It was Maharaji and Barry Katz.
I know, it was like so bizarre. Like for those of you who don't know what I did, which I doubt you would, I had this man that I worked with who's fantastic. His name's Garrett Gunderson. He's a money guy. He's written 5 books. He's incredible. And I worked with him on his comedy career and shooting a special in Utah. And I spent a lot of time with him. And I always spent a lot of hours with him. And one of the things I always believe in, which which is not necessarily the best business practice in terms of financial, is I like to over-deliver. I like to spend more time with people. Yeah. But there's only so many hours in the day, and so, but I would love to spend a lot of time with him and work with him on his career and his comedy. And I mean, he did an hour special after working with me for like 2 years or a year and a half, and he hadn't even been doing comedy.
Yeah.
And so he gifted me this thing called The Journey. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if you can find it on the internet. You'd have to look it up or whatever. But it was a $7,000 thing. And I flew to Utah and went to his cabin in the middle of nowhere in the winter. And I'm there with a few people that I don't really know. Some I know from his group, maybe 8 people. And apparently, there was some kind of a glitch in the business system. Everybody makes mistakes in their business or whatever. And so these people from the journey, they reached out to every single person who was there and prepared them for the journey. But they didn't reach out to me.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I'm going there and I'm going to learn what's happening. And so these people come around, they talk in front of the fireplace, and they're like, welcome to the journey. You brought your notebooks, your pens, your headphones, your music, your recordings. And I'm just looking around like, I don't have any of these things. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. And as we told you in the instructions, what's going to happen now is we're going to give you 3 sets of pills to take that's going to get you woozy. And I'm like, what? What pills am I taking? It's like you're telling your children never to take anything, never to go to a party, never to take anything. And this fucking guy you don't know who looks like something out of like a fucking Barnum, the Ringling Brothers or whatever the hell it is, or they're these weird kind of wonderful people, but they have the eyes of the children of the corn, and they're handing you the cup with the pill in it. Take the purple. Does Barry have the purple one or the green or the red one? Does anybody have the information? Here you go. Just take the purple one. And you're like, okay, I'll take the purple one. Yeah. And so I'm with these, and raise your hand when you feel woozy, and we'll take you into your room. Yeah. I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is going on here? Like, I didn't know this was what it was. Yeah. And so they kept giving people pills, and then they raise their hands, and then they take them into these rooms that I didn't see where they were going. It's like, and suddenly I just look around, and I'm the only one in this living room by the fireplace. And they're like, okay, Barry, you feeling anything yet? No. Okay, Joe, you want to get another pill in here? So they give me another horse tranquilizer. Yeah, I drink it. And they're like looking at me like, anything? Yeah. No. And then finally, after like about another 5 or 10 minutes, I'm like, yeah, I guess I feel a little woozy now. But I don't know what's happening, what I'm doing, what's next, what's going on. And okay, let us help you into the room. And they take me into Garrett's master bedroom. Mm-hmm. And they lie me on the bed, and they say, you got your music? I'm like, I don't have any music. Okay, Joe, want to get the music in here, whatever. And they got this new age music that they put on headphones on
Someone
me.
Playing a harp or some shit.
It's like this, and it's I don't know what it is. I'll play some for you later. Yeah. It's like this Gregorian chant kind of stuff, okay. and I'm lying there, and then they put a weighted blanket on me. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you got your recorder, Barry? I'm like, my recorder? What are you talking? Did you get any of this? No, I didn't get it. Okay, and then they set up my computer to videotape and audio tape me. Yep. And I'm lying there, I'm woozy. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, a woman takes my headphone and she says, Barry, I'm gonna give you a shot in your right arm right now. It's gonna pinch a little bit. And I'm thinking to myself, what? I'm getting a shot? But I'm paralyzed on this bed, like just with my arms out. Yeah. And I feel a shot, and it's like really painful. And I'm like just thinking to myself in my mind, ow. But I can't do anything. Yeah. And then my mind starts going like, psychedelic patterns in my mind that are going back and forth like you would at the dentist office when you get too much, whatever that gas is. Yeah. So that's happening, and I'm just experiencing it. And they said beforehand that I was going to be talking a lot and being very verbal, and later on I would listen to all the things that I said, and I would be able to take notes about that, and it would help me in my business life.
Sure.
And it's going to be like a 3 or 4 hours I'll be through this, and then I'll come out of it and I'll go in the living room and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So I'm lying down after the first shot. I'm hearing shit from the other rooms. Mommy! Mommy, don't do that to me. Daddy, don't hit me. You know, like, how dare you do that to me?
Yep.
You're so mean.
Their deepest memories are all coming out. Yep.
Like, and I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck is going on in this house? It's like a haunted house, and I'm just lying there, and I'm like thinking, I can't get out of here because I'm like hallucinating. I can't get up, and I've got the eye thing on, and all of a sudden the other ear thing comes out. Hi, Barry. It's me again. I'm going to give you a shot in the other arm. I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck? Am I a heroin addict? They're putting shots in both arms. Yeah. Put the shot in the other arm, and then more hallucinations. And throughout the time, I just remember the headphone going up. Barry, just checking up on you. Are you okay? And I just go. And that happened about 3 or 4 times. Until finally a headphone came up, and it was Garrett, and he said, Barry, are you okay? I'm like, Barry, I think you should get up now. I don't want to get up. Barry, you've been out for 12 hours. Everybody's been in the living room for like 8 hours. We've had lunch and dinner and discussing our feelings, and you want to get up. It's like, it's like 11 p.m.
Yeah.
I said, okay. And I got up.
Mm-hmm.
And so all through the night, I listened to all of my recordings. Because you're supposed to have all this stuff that you say that helps you in business and whatever. And as you know, I only said one word in the entire 12 hours. About 4 hours in, I just screamed out the name Hitler. Okay? Now, I'm Jewish. I don't know why I'd scream out the word Hitler. And so the next morning, I took the people from the thing aside. I said, listen, everybody else I'm talking to, they're talking like they've had like the spiritual revolution of their life. Mm-hmm. I just saw some patterns and shapes in my mind, and I fell asleep for 12 hours and said the word Hitler. What's wrong with me? Yeah. And they said, Barry, sometimes I know some people don't believe in this, but sometimes in a past life, you were a rabbi or a shaman or you whatever, and you gained all the spiritual things you needed, and these things don't have that kind of effect on you. They have a nice relaxing feeling on you, and it's a wonderful experience, but it's not like something that's a revelation. And I would do it again in a heartbeat, just for the fact that it's wonderful to be in a situation where the world stops. And again, for those of you listening, if you can find anything in your life that's work related, mm-hmm. where there's a pause button on all your stress, all your feelings of anxiety, everything, then you got to do that as much as you can, and whenever you want to do it, or however you can. If it makes you money and you can make money from it, great. Mm-hmm. It's like I can guarantee you there's 2 times in your life mm-hmm. when you have no thought process or any stress at all. Yeah. It's the minute you pick up a mic and start talking, mm-hmm. and then the stress starts the minute you put it down, or the minute a woman picks up your mic and starts talking to it until she puts it down. Uh-huh. Those are the only the 2 times when there's no stress in your life. Am I right? One makes you money, one doesn't.
Yeah. The other takes it away. Yeah, that sounds like me. Sounds pretty. Nailed me.
So that was my experience, and so.
Did you ever find out what it was?
No, it's a secret blend that they've got from South Africa or whatever. I don't know what it is.
Nice.
And I had bruises on both my arms. Like, I was really, honestly, I wasn't happy with the experience and how they presented it to me and how they ignored certain things and I didn't have an understanding.
Yeah.
But I was unhappy with the bruises, but I would still do it again.
Yeah. Nice. All right. That's a good one, Miles. Miles, I got to give Miles a nod for bringing up that topic.
Miles deserves many, many nods.
I know. I keep trying to get a third mic on him. We got a mic on him now. I'm trying to get a camera on him. Get a little producer man camera.
Can I ask Miles a question?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Off mic?
Yeah.
So, Miles, you have you're in a relationship, right?
That's right.
I always am curious about this because when you're going into the relationship and then each year you're in it, do you feel like there's a chance to have something extraordinary and keep it extraordinary? Or do you worry that it's impossible to keep an extraordinary relationship over time? And the reason why I say this is because, as a lot of people know, sadly in the world, in my humble opinion, it takes a really, really extraordinary woman to keep the train on the tracks in a relationship. And I was talking to one woman the other day, and I said, like, every relationship you're in, they're always so happy. The guys are always so happy, and you're always the one that breaks up with them after, but they're always happy and they're always despondent after you break up with them. What is it about you that makes that happen? And she said, this is fantastic. She said, I know how to water the garden. I know how to water the garden so the garden is always green. And I'll never forget how to do that because that's going to make my life happy. And the minute I stop watering the garden, men don't have the ability to water the garden as much as women do. And she said it's a balance where you have to figure out how to be things that you might not want to be, how to be things that you want to be, and balance it to where the relationship stays and keeps going.
Sure.
Because let's face it, if every woman knew how to navigate the men that have no navigational skills, there'd probably be no war.
True.
So when you look at your life, how do you look at it? Is it something where you say, hey, I can make this work until I am the age and she's the age of the woman who threw the jewel off the Titanic?
I definitely think it's possible. I'm 37 years old right now. I've never been in a serious long-term relationship. I've had a few girlfriends. I think it's rare. I think not everybody gets to encounter that in their lifetime where it just works. It's only been a year for me, so I can't really predict the future on that. But right now I can tell you 100%, I believe that you can go the distance. And it's just some sort of inner knowing and comfort and peace that you have when you're together, that whatever crashes against it doesn't penetrate that barrier.
Got it. If your girlfriend came home and she said, Miles, I made a mistake last night. I went to this place and I slept with this guy, and I'm sorry. Would you continue going out with her?
Fuck no. But also that wouldn't happen. But no, that'd be over in half a second.
And what about if you did that and you said that to her? Would it be over?
I wouldn't tell her. Just kidding.
I love man.
I'm just kidding. Yes, she would be out the door in a split second.
Interesting. What percentage of men and women in the world cheat?
That's got to be a high number. 70 plus.
70 plus. So what you're saying is in every relationship, there's a 70% chance that somebody's going to slip. See, I was always the philosophy when I was married, like I told my wife that I said, listen, if something happens and you slip, I just want you to know, like, I'm here. I'm not going to see my children, every other Sunday because you fuck the bag boy. It's like I can handle it. I'll work it out. I'll figure it out and whatever. And it's interesting you said my dad died when he was 37. And you're 37, so it's fascinating when you said that. It just hit me.
Wow.
And also something that hit me for both of you in your audience. My mom was married twice. One husband died at 30. My dad died at 37. And I always asked her, if you had to do it all over again, would you still, if you knew that they were both going to die, would you still have gotten married? And she said, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
She said, and this goes for you, and it goes for you too. She said, most men and women never find love. I found it twice. I'm the luckiest woman in the world. And so that's something that's very elusive.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Especially in Jake's life right now. It's very elusive.
I find it every weekend.
It's funny we talk about it. We're living polar opposite lives right now, Jake and I.
Yeah.
He was married for so many years. I was single. Now I'm in a long-term relationship and he's single. And the parallels are hilarious.
Yeah, now you don't buy condoms anymore, and he buys his at Costco.
Exactly.
Something like that. I do okay here. The city of Phoenix loves me. I'm a man of downtown.
Meanwhile, I live in the East Valley, and I just put up a Christmas tree, so.
I'd love to be your wingman.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
I could see how it all happens. Maybe there might be hope for me.
I think we'd be just fine.
Yeah. I've been on dating apps. I can't get arrested on those things. It's like, it's unbelievable. It's like there's not one person who responds to me.
Really?
Ever. It's like the craziest thing. Like, it's like I am kryptonite to a dating site. I mean, I know why. I mean, I'm obviously older, and I'm,
Just put your IMDb link in there.
And I look. I don't. So I shouldn't have a fake name in there. And then anyway, no. But it's like weirdest thing. Like, I don't meet. This is something else I don't share. I don't even know why I'm sharing it with you, but it's a great thing that you get things out of me that, like, I've never. I think I might have told you once. I never have gone up to a woman in my lifetime, a stranger, and said, hi, my name's Barry, what's your name?
Never.
Not one time. Yet if you asked me if I ever worry about meeting anybody, I've never worried about it. I've always met people all the time.
Yeah.
And also on the dating thing, it's the same thing, like nothing. It's like I should just go and hang out at women's prisons and I would have a better shot of maybe, no, that would be a good shot. But it's just the way it's been. But I always meet people and I always hang out with great people, and I've been fortunate to be around really extraordinary women, and very grateful for that, because every man, just like an artist, just like a comedian, you want to feel alive, and what makes you feel alive is performing and getting great laughs. And what makes you feel alive as a guy and a girl is when you just have that companionship that's like magical, where I don't know how your audience feels because it's a different time, but for me, like, if you're sitting across from somebody with a wooden block between you and there's somebody serving you food and drinks, and you start and the restaurant is packed with a waiting list, and you finish the night and you're the last people in the restaurant, that's when you know that something great is happening. And also, for anybody listening, the other person doesn't have to be the greatest storyteller in the world, but one of the greatest things that you know is that you have to have great stories.
Yeah.
If you're out there in the world and you don't have great stories, you're dead. You're not going to make money. You're not going to create great relationships. You're not going to meet great people. You have to have so many stories. Like Jay could just do a wheel of just something and say one subject heading, whatever it is. He could just randomly say something to me. And I know it sounds cocky, and I don't mean to be cocky, I know I'm going to tell you a story that's going to blow you and your audience away.
Yeah.
That's just the way my life has been.
Yep.
It's crazy. And so that's how I feel about that.
All right. So speaking of way your life has been, last thing I want to cover is Miles and I want to do a little kind of 6 degrees of separation. So I'm going to say some names, and I just want you to tell me, it doesn't have to be long, just the first thing you think of each of these people, because you've had the
This segment sounds familiar.
A little bit familiar, yeah.
we listen, I told you, we're
picked it up
we're
somewhere.
half just replicating your show.
I
on
always
this one, all right?
say, study greatness, imitate greatness,
Yeah.
become great.
We learned it from you.
All right.
Okay, so these are some of the people that obviously people are going to know, and as a comedy fan, you know, it's not like the fame part is cool, but like you actually know these people, right? To me, these are just legends I see on TV and YouTube, right? But you have had inside access. You have probably seen some of these people's insecurities and things Miles and I will never know about, you know? So you have like a little bit of an inside hit on some of these. So I'm just going to say some names and just give me the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Sure.
All right, first one, Dave Chappelle.
Kind, sweet, gentle, just so much love for his mom and his dad and his grandmother, and so that's the one side. The other side is his mind worked at a different way that other people's minds work, and so if you're a comedian, sometimes you're writing stuff and you're like wondering, why am I doing a routine about Popeye having an orgasm, and Dave Chappelle is doing a routine on, you know, his first routine that I ever remember him doing. It's how edgy and amazing it was. He said, I came to New York, I went to Washington Square Park, and I found out the history. Back in the old days, they used to hang white people and black people on different trees. I thought to myself, can you imagine the protests back then, the black people? We want to be hung on the same trees as y'all. So he had this edge, this uniqueness about him, and I know this is a long story, but your audience is going to love this.
Okay, yeah.
When I first started representing him, he was 18. And I took him to Washington Square Park to see Charlie Barnett, who was another client of mine. He was a drug addict. You never saw him do drugs. A street person, homeless, but you never saw that he was homeless. And he used to do shows in the fountain at Washington Square Park with 400 people around him. Wow. And then he'd make the money, and then he'd give his clothes to a homeless person and go buy new clothes. But to make a long story longer, I took Dave to see Charlie do a show. He used to do 4-hour shows, this guy. And he's laughing, and then like an hour in, I don't see Dave, and he's walking away. I can see him walking away, and I run after him. And he turns around, and he's crying. I said, are you okay? What's going on? He said, why the fuck did you take me here? This is the only time he ever got mad at me. Why the fuck did you take me here? I'm like, well, I wanted you to see one of the greatest performers of all time. Man, I'm never going to be as funny as that fucking guy. How dare you take me here, demoralize me, embarrass me. Fucking that guy's the best. I'm never going to be that great. I said, not only are you going to be that great, you're going to pass him, and you're going to change the face of comedy as we know it. And one other thing, you're closing the show tonight after him. And I walked away. Charlie goes on. He used to go on without a microphone. He used to close with this incredible story without a microphone. I'll never forget it. There's a point to the story. You'll love this. He used to say, I lived in the projects. He used to have have this raspy voice. One time there was a fire in my building, flames shooting out everywhere. People are evacuating in their robes, their underwear. It's freezing outside. Fire everywhere. The fire trucks come. There's this one old guy at the top of the building. The firemen are there with those round things. They're going back and forth. They're saying, sir, jump, jump, save yourself. You're going to die. You know what he said? He looked down and he said, fuck you. This is the first time this building ever had heat. He gets a standing ovation. Dave's looking at me like, I'm going to kill you, you motherfucker. He goes on. He gets them to where he's supposed to be. Dave gets a standing ovation. Yeah. On Monday, I go to my office. I open the door. I go to my desk. Underneath the assistant desk is Charlie Barnett sleeping. I'm like, Charlie, what's going on? Why are you here? He said, well, they let me in. I didn't have a place to stay. Listen, you got a videotape of that kid that was on Saturday night? I said, the kid, Chappelle? Yeah. I got to watch that kid. I'm like, what? I got to watch that kid now. All weekend I've been thinking I got to watch this guy. I've been sleeping here ready to watch that kid.
Yeah.
I put the videotape in the TV. I went in my room, did my work. And I come out about a half hour later. The tape is stopped. I look at Charlie. He's crying. I'm like, are you okay, Charlie? It's like, man, I'm never going to be as funny as that guy.
The next day? That's amazing. That's amazing, man. That's crazy. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my God. Okay, couple more. Louis C.K.
Louis C.K. I love so much. My wife died when I was first married the first time. She was 23, and I was 26, and I was managing him. He was my first client. I managed him when he was 18.
Wow.
And so wonderful. And I was just in bed all day long, and I wouldn't answer the phone. I had one of those answering machines, that the people leave the message. You can hear the message throughout the house. And he would call like every day. Listen, Barry, are you okay? Come, whatever. And it was like a long time I was out of it. Like I was out of it for a long time, like almost a year. And I was still trying to do my business, but I'd lost myself. Mm-hmm. And it was Christmas time, and he kept leaving me messages, and finally one of the messages said, listen, you are invited to our house for Christmas, and if you don't fucking get out of bed, I am going to come over there and drag you over here. And he kept talking. You better pick up. You pick up. I'm going to still keep calling. And it would beep, and then he'd call. You pick up, Barry. You pick up. And finally, I was just like, fuck. Yeah, Louie, listen, this is my address. Come over here to Christmas. I'm like, Louie, I just don't feel right, whatever. Just come over. Please. I remember it was snowing, and I had a 67 Camaro at the time, and I slid and drove over to his house, and I went inside, and they had a seat at the table for me. They had all these gifts for me, and they treated me like I was family, and I'll never forget that. And I in terms of Louis C.K. and what people think about, again, show me who you are, and sometimes people take it and they grasp it for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And this is what's so hard about the comedy business to me. And I know you say I have not that much time left, but
You're good.
you're going to be fucked here. This is what's wrong. There's no governing body
Yeah.
for the comedy business, okay? So it's like in football, it's like somebody beats their girlfriend up in an elevator and drags her by her dreadlocks out in the lobby and kicks her, and he's in the commissioner's office the next day. Okay, Ray, yeah, bad stuff. I got the videotape right here. It's bad. You're going to have to be suspended. Sam, how long? What did the other guy get? 8 games, $1 million fine? Okay. So, yeah, Ray, it's going to be 8 games suspended without pay and $1 million fine. Anything else, Ray? I'm sorry, anything else? Ray, yeah, it's going to be like you're going to have to do community service reporting. And then you're back in the game now. In comedy, you're judged by one fucking thing you do. You know, I'm not saying I don't know all the things that happen, but I'm saying the thing that he was judged by and got it canceled by was in a dressing room with 2 women. So a guy has this extraordinary career, does amazing things for so many people, inspires the world, and you do one thing, and you can't fucking work on television and film again as long as you... Kevin Spacey, the greatest actor of my generation, you know, one of them, does something on a set or wherever he is, he goes to court and is proven in court by a jury of our peers that he is okay and can't get a fucking job. So Louis C.K., amazing person. I think there should be something in the comedy business that says, hey, you did a bad thing, okay, you can't work for 2 years, you got to do live performances, and you got to give a certain amount of your money back to women's rights or whatever it is, and then you got to create another show for women.
Yeah.
And then you go off and do your thing. But there's nothing like that, and it bothers me because Louis, he changed my life. I represented him for about 7 or 8 years, and I love him, and I want him to do well, and I think there has to be a point where you bring people back, and hey, listen, people go to jail, and they come out of jail, and they're able to do... You know, sex offenders can come back into society. You know where they are, but they still can work.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, 2 more. This one, Dave Attell.
Dave Attell, one of the first comedians I worked with. I never managed Dave, but he hosted the open mic at my club, and I've always loved him. To me, I don't think this is a bad thing to say, because I love so many comedians in my life. But in terms of the sense of humor, like of how the jokes are constructed, of the comedians of my generation, the comedy that somehow gets in my brain and makes me laugh the hardest above everybody else is Dave Attell. And I think that almost every comedian in the world who knows comedy, he'd probably be on their list somewhere there.
Yeah.
The first joke I ever remember Dave Attell saying, and it's just He said, I went into a Gap clothing store with my friend. He goes into the dressing room. He comes out. He's wearing overalls. He said, Dave, what go with these? I looked at him. I said, I tell you what doesn't go with those. Jobs and women. Again, it comes full circle to what we talked about earlier, the puzzle.
Yeah.
So my friend goes into the dressing room. He comes out with overalls. He said, Dave, what go with these? So the answer to the question, the audience member is like a gerbil. They're going through, well, what is it that he would say here? And normally you would think it's a joke of what does go with those, and he's gonna, they might say, hey, a tractor, a plow.
Yeah.
And that the audience would already figure that out. But Dave does jokes, it's like, I don't like to travel, not because I don't like seeing the sights, just because my father used to beat me with a globe. It's just like there's no way the audience is figuring out the puzzle.
Yeah.
Ever. That beautiful moment, when you're with a girl and you've had sex and you're naked and the sun comes up through the windshield. It's like the puzzle is not, you can't figure it out, and so it's so funny. And that for every artist who's a comedian listening, clever wins the race. I know what you're saying. There's multi-millionaires who aren't clever. Yeah, that's true. And there's number one draft picks to win the NBA lottery for somebody who had not as many balls in the hopper. Mm-hmm. But I always like to say, your career is that glass lottery thing, and all your things in your career are those numbers. And the numbers that you choose to win the lottery, you want to make sure you have as many of those in there as possible. So when you talk about the things you're doing online that are helping you, those don't help you win the lottery. Mm-hmm. Those are helping you win the other lottery, which is the views lottery.
Yeah.
But in terms of comedy, it's the cleverness of the routines that are going to take you to the promised land. You don't even have to kill as hard as another person. I'm sure that Sam Morrill wouldn't be mad if I said, hey, listen, he's a lower key guy. He's not going to kill as hard as the guy who's running around the stage and clever, mm-hmm. or not as clever, or whatever. But he's always going to get my respect and every comic's respect. Yeah. And so Attell was that kind of guy who he didn't move around a lot, but he had the clever and the puzzle that you couldn't figure out no matter where he went. You never knew.
Yeah.
And even when a joke didn't go over well, I remember he used to do this thing that I used to love, where it's like the joke would bomb and he'd just take the microphone and he'd go, let me turn this to funny. So I love Dave Attell, a big, 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 big part of my life and career, and I just saw him in New York, and he hung out with my sons and inspired them, and
cool.
And he actually, the reason why I interviewed Troy Bond and a few other young guys is because Dave took me aside at the Comedy Cellar alone, and he said, Barry, can I share something? And I said, sure. He said, interview some of the young guys. Mm-hmm. Stop interviewing the older people and the people who made a difference. Interview some of these young guys that are making a difference.
Yeah.
And I took his advice.
Yeah. Love that. All right, last one. Patrice O'Neal.
Patrice O'Neal is a guy I knew from Boston. His name was Bruiser. He went by Bruiser O'Neal. I met him through a comedy team called Cato and Moran, or Cato and Moran. And it was Steve Cato, who since passed away, and Tommy Moran, who is now a comedian preacher. And he came to New York, and Patrice was the kind of guy who you know, it's hard to understand people who don't take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's always hard, no matter how evolved you are as a person, to not see somebody who's 350 pounds and ask yourself, if they can't figure this out, that this is not going to be good for your body, your heart, and your instrument, then what's the reason, and how does that drive their comedy? Are they angry? Are they taking it out in a certain way, or whatever it is? And I used to book Patrice a lot. I booked him a lot in colleges and events like that. He was always a very challenging and difficult guy because he just wanted to do things his way. There's a lot of comedians who haven't been respectful of the light on stage.
Mm-hmm.
He was a guy that would go long a lot of times. He would do a lot of things on stage that were controversial.
Yep.
And then off stage, he was so fucking funny, and he would come up with so many fucking ways to shit on me. I'll never forget the first time I think I met him, or the first time he came to New York. He came outside the Boston Comedy Club, which was my club where so many people came through. And I said, "How you doing, Patrice? Welcome to New York." He said, "Man, look at those teeth. You could eat an apple through a white picket fence." And he just always had that thing. And, you know, like Kevin Hart would go on and he'd be trying to just do something. He'd finally be turning a corner, and Patrice would be in the back just tackling him, just ruining his set completely.
Yeah.
He just like fuck with people all the time.
Yep.
But I think when people pass away, they're revered, and I think the comedians loved Patrice when he was alive. They loved him after he passed away, and I don't know him in the way that the comedians know him that way, even though I knew him and I was around him all the time. I just know him as a guy who complicated winning.
Okay.
And I never understood why people self-sabotage themselves.
Yeah.
And I guess we're all broken, and that's why a lot of people in comedy do what they do. But, you know, I would much rather like to be talking about Patrice as he's living as opposed to not.
Yeah, I hear you. Last question. Okay. Last question's a little bit selfish.
This is the shortest interview I've ever done. What is this? It's like an hour and 25 minutes or something?
Yeah, it's the longest we've done. No, it's all good. So last one's a little bit selfish, and this is what Miles and I work with you on, the blueprint. I don't want to let you get out of here without talking about that a little bit. You know, what I love most about, you know, what you do with the blueprint for success is I feel like you would do it regardless of anything you got out of it. I don't think, we talk all the time, I don't think it's money. I don't think it's influence. It seems to be something you genuinely enjoy. So, like, just real quick, like, how do you define what the blueprint is, and you know, what is it about it that really, you know, brings you joy?
Well, first of all, one of the first things that brings me joy is that I'm sitting here with you and Miles.
Mm-hmm.
And when I thought of the idea for the blueprint, I had a bunch of amazing young people working with me. I had done something really crazy. I rented a studio.
Mm-hmm.
I built out this whole studio in Malibu. And then the pandemic hit. So I built it all out to do a radio show, the podcast, and the pandemic hit. And I have all these young people working with me that want to do great things. And I always wanted to do this thing to try to inspire people, but couldn't really figure out what I was doing. and this wonderful woman, Mareka Wara, came from another area of the country and said, I'm going to help you do this, and I'm going to work, and we're going to launch this thing in a big way. And I had many other young people as well who, I mean, a vast group of them that started and helped me from the beginning. There was a guy named Kyle, there was Wes, there was Michaela, all these young, amazing people. I'm sorry if I don't mention all of them, because they were wonderful. And they came in there and they helped me create and put all this content together during the pandemic, where I would be doing this master course and I would be doing these chapters and I would write them out. I would do all these different pieces of content, and I created like 100 hours of content during the pandemic in the studio or in the editing bay. And I started on Patreon really small, and then I met you guys, and the first thing that really inspires me, that I love, is the fact that I connected with the both of you, and what we do together, which I don't know if your audience knows, you guys run the whole infrastructure of the Blueprint, and a young man named Dustin in my office helps, but you guys inspired me to think bigger. And so in like 6 months or whatever it is, to go from like, you know, a select few people in the program to like, I think 600 so far, I'm sitting across from two people who changed my life forever. And so when you change my life forever, so what's my initial, I don't know, instinct? My instinct is, this is a competition. I have to change their lives forever. I have to figure out what I can do to where they will always remember me and something that I did to help them. And so in the Blueprint, there's all different levels of comedians in there. And I have these Monday meetings. Most of the time they're Mondays at 5. And it's a Zoom call with all these people in, and they get access to me. And I what do I spend? I'm supposed to spend an hour. I always spend 2 hours. But I love talking to these people, and I love answering the questions and helping them. And again, some of them make the same mistakes. I had a showcase the other day, for my first showcase for them, in this little 50-seat room, to where they couldn't invite a lot of people, and it was unbiased. And their exercise was 5 minutes, pretend you got a call from Kimmel or The Tonight Show, and your set is this night, you want to dress the part, and you want to do that 5 minutes. That's what I want to see. What happens? Are you ready? Have you been training for this day? And there were 10 people on, and I'm embarrassed to say that probably 6 of them completely self-destructed. Like, I don't even know how it's possible that they couldn't do the 5 minutes, boom, 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 thank you. Sometimes they'd be up there after 2 minutes, oh, fuck, I forgot that bit. Let me do this bit. You know, it's like, well, you never do that on The Tonight Show. But I was on the side, and after they finished performing, I would sit on the side and critique their act and do it. So it was a different kind of show. And I love helping people, and I love making a difference. And when you manage people, like I think I represented 6 or 7 people on Saturday Night Live. Look, there's something amazing about getting the call from Lorne Michaels and you know, hey, Barry, Daryl Hammond got the show. That's fantastic, but you only help one person. Now, I know what your audience might say. That's not true, Barry. You help Lorne Michaels. You help NBC. Daryl Hammond, throughout the 14 years that he was on, enriched millions of people's lives. Yes, and I know I've made a difference in the world there, and I know my place. But with the Blueprint, I can give an Airbnb my mind to many young Daryl Hammonds out there, and older people, and anybody in between. There's people who are in their 60s. There's people who are teenagers, there's people in their 20s, there's men, women, there's all kinds of people in there. And I love the feeling of being able to change people's lives. I remember I met a rabbi once, and he took me aside and he says, Barry, just remember, it's your bar mitzvah. If you can change one person's life in your lifetime, you've done your job. And I listened to that guy like he was like God. Mm-hmm. And now in my life, I would love to go back there and look that rabbi in the eye and say, what are you, fucking crazy? What are you, fucking crazy? I'm going to inspire one person and help one person? Fucking take me to the garage like Bradley Cooper at the end of A Star Is Born with the belt. Okay? I have to reach as many people as possible and help as many people as possible because I love it. But I love managing. You know, I represent Brad Williams, one of the greatest, fucking most powerful comedians, just launching a new special. It's incredible working with him. I worked with him for probably 12 years. He's like a brilliant, kind, generous, unbelievable, powerful comedian. Yeah. And I've seen him rise, like, it's just incredible, selling out theaters all over the place now, adding 430 shows. Yep. But I also love working on television and producing television shows. Whitney Cummings, she had 3 television shows in 1 year. To work with a person who was a correspondent at the Sundance Channel and whatever, or to just in management, to meet 25 people in my lifetime that were living in a studio apartment, living check to check, and to become multimillionaires. Yeah. There's no greater feeling in the world but to be able to bring that to the Blueprint and give those people all my knowledge for free. They can sign up for free. Yep. That's all they have to do. It's like then they can just get a little piece of me, and if they want more of me, they get more, and if they pay more, they get more. It's like it's like in the beginning, I'm like one of those prostitutes that you but I mean, the fact is like it's just incredible, and that's all I want. And you're right. If I had all the money in the world, I always say this to anybody, again, who will listen, and you ask yourselves this question, your audience, okay? Mm-hmm. Honestly, and both of you ask yourself this question. If you had all the money in the world, and you had the health of yourself and your family, and in return, you had to do one thing for 50, 60 hours a week, 40 hours a week for the rest of your life, ask yourself what that would be. And fucking do that. Yeah. And if you're not doing it, get out of what you're doing and do that. Yeah. Because that's what you're meant to do. And for me, if I had all the money in the world and the health of myself, I would still be working with clients. The last 3 meetings I had, because of you and this program, there's people I do private consulting with who you know, whatever, and there's other people who get meetings with me because of the Blueprint. Yep. And the last 3 were like crying on the phone with me. Like it was like a therapy session, because it's like part what I do. I have no system, and this is something that these guys will kick me under the table for saying. But the Blueprint, I have no fucking system. All I have is my instinct and my opinion, which is all that I've been paid for my entire fucking career. Yeah. That's all I give you. I don't sit there with a paper. Today we're going to talk about punchlines. Tomorrow we're going to talk about setups. Yeah. No, it's all instinct. So when I meet with somebody, when I talk with somebody, I just know what's going to happen, and I'm going to ramble a little bit more. Like there's this guy I met with recently, and he, you know, he'd opened for Jackie Mason. There was a woman I met with who opened for Jackie Mason, and they don't know what path to take, and so you shape certain things around. Comes full circle about Jackie Mason, because you shape things with people where their instincts lie, what they're talking about, what means something to them. And you can kind of get them where they want to go in their career based on what meant something to them in the beginning. Yeah. For me, Bob Newhart meant something to me. He was clever. So I respond to clever, and I want comedians and artists to do things that are clever, that'll move their career forward. Doesn't matter if you're not in comedy. Anything you do that is unique like that, and that's what I want to impart, and that's what I love, and I love that, and I'm proud. I'm really proud of you guys, and I'm proud to work with you guys, I'm also proud of the Blueprint, because I can't believe how incredible it's been, and how something has. I've gotten so many emails and so many texts and so many FedExes because of this program, and and it's weird because it's not a program that's designed to help me as a manager and a TV and film producer. So many people take me aside and say, "What the fuck are you doing, Barry? Why are you spending your time helping people like this? You could be, doing this." And I still do all of that.
Yeah.
But people sometimes lose sight of the fact that, oh, well, he's doing this now. No, I'm doing this in my spare time.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the management and the film and the television stuff in my full time. And most everything I do is at night. And you probably wonder, you hear from me at like 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, we noticed.
And so it's like I don't get a lot of sleep, but I love what I'm doing. And I love that you love what you're doing.
Yeah.
And those in the audience, just do something that you love, work smart, work clever, and your star will rise.
Yeah, and you had said, do what you love, and what you would do for free, and honestly, if you could do anything, we're doing it right now. You know what I mean? This is what I would do. I mean, comedy is fun, but podcasting, having these conversations is easily the best. It's Sunday right now. We got here at 8:30 in the morning. Like, this is the only thing in the world that Miles drove 45 minutes to be here at 8:30 in the morning. So, like, this is the only thing in the world that would get us to do that, and it's because we love it. So, this was fun, man. I'm glad we finally got to connect. I'm glad after all these years we finally got to meet, have this great conversation. So, we appreciate you coming out to see us.
I appreciate it too, but I would be remiss if, Miles, you don't come here and you don't sit right here so the audience can see how wonderful you are.
Come on, Miles.
And how much we revere you. And I can't believe you gave up church and morning sex just to be here.
I did. He does exist. Here I am. Thank you.
Now they can see how handsome you are.
There you go. How's my hair?
People say that we are like, you're like my son.
Yeah, we were wondering.
Were you in northern Michigan in 1985 by any chance? Because we're still searching for my biological father.
No, but I was in Phnom Penh, and that's another story. But
brother out there somewhere.
But thank you so much. I just wanted you to know. I wanted you to be on camera and let you know how proud I am of you guys and how much I thank you so much.
We love you so much.
Yeah, we really do. We
you.
talk about it all
Thank
the
you.
time, man.
Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. Thanks for sticking with us. This is Jake, James, and friends. We'll see you next time. All right.
Awesome.
Sorry it was so long.
No, it's okay. No, there's no rules.